Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside Nebraska podcast and another edition of Rapid Recap. He's Greg Smith, our recruiting extraordinaire, and I'm Zack, Carpenter, publisher at Inside Nebraska. And day 2 now of Huskers fall camp is in the books with 2 practices down, technically 4 practices if they're splitting them up into 2 sessions each day between the older, more veteran guys and the younger guys. But nonetheless, 2 days in the books. We had defensive coordinator Tony White, defensive line coach Terrance Knighton, MJ Sherman, Jack linebacker, MJ Sherman, defensive lineman Blaze Gunnarsson, defensive lineman Nash Hutmacher, and defensive lineman Ruquan Buckley.
There you go.
We're all up there today. And I guess just starting off with Tony White, I know we were both over there for him for all or most of his 10, 12 minutes up there. What was your biggest takeaway or thing that kind of grabbed your attention?
Man, it's funny, like on one hand, he talked a lot about kind of, we're just basically in the installation phase. We're trying to get guys to do things the right way, and we're trying to get them to know our way of doing things, right? But on the other hand, which is good, but on the other hand, he spoke with great urgency. Like that, it was really.
He was hyped up.
Like he was fired up.
Full
on sweating. The one thing I told our digital content extraordinaire, Jansen Covert, I told him, like, I wanted to ask him, like, if he thought that like showed the players anything, because obviously him and the other coaches are running around out there having a good time, really getting after it. So does that show the players anything? I did not. We will get that question asked though, because I think that it does show something, right? It shows that everyone's invested, everyone's working hard, and you can't have players slack off if they're doing that as well.
Yeah, Rule talked about yesterday to open the press conference, talk about how he got in the huddle and got some reps in or something, that the video was coming out soon, but I don't think I ever saw that video.
I need to see that.
Tony White, I mean, the energy of the staff, I think, is something that's been prevalent throughout spring ball, throughout recruiting, and now it's extending into fall camp. I mean, he had a light gray,
full sweat,
light gray, like long sleeve on that was now heather gray or charcoal gray. It was a darker version of the original one he had, but he was talking about, the players have been in shape, but now it's about getting into football shape, and he said it's the same with the coaches as well. He did have a sense of urgency, and that was especially noticeable when he was running through a bunch of the guys that sort of caught his eye. I mean, he was asked, Tony White was asked, how many players roundabout do you want to rotate in just on the defense as a whole, and he said as many as we can, because guys are still working into that football shape. They are still installing this defense, and in the spring they talked about installing. They were putting in too much, and then they scaled it back. Right now we're throwing a lot at them, and then he said I would rather scale it back than have to add on from the start. And then he listed off like all those players. I mean, one of them that caught your eye though was Eric Fields, who's a true freshman. Linebacker out of Oklahoma, was completely off the radar, and then he was found by the Nebraska staff, and he was sort of one of those summer enrollees who we had pegged like he could come in and pick out or grab a role in that linebacker room. He's now working at Rover.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something that we thought there'd be a little bit of a battle, right, between Tony White mediate between Evan Cooper, the defensive backs coach, and then Rob Dvorak, the linebackers coach, to see where he lands. We'll see if that's the spot right now, working with Cooper more at that Rover spot, but we'll see. I think that they're probably encouraged by what they're seeing out of him and just how fast he is out there on the football field. One of the things, too, though, about the install that White talked about that kind of caught my attention in rotating guys is that they're not just doing it just for the sake of, having guys rotate and learn right now. He mentioned the, quote, championship months of the season, right? When you got to October, late October, November, December, and having guys that, A, know what they're doing out there, but B, that are fresh and can go out there and give quality snaps because that's when Big Ten play, when the rubber meets the road. So I thought that was really interesting, too. Championship months.
I'm glad you said that, because that was one of the phrases that caught my eye, because I'd never heard the phrase championship months before, and then when he started breaking that down, who can kind of have that the mental fortitude and the physicality and being in shape enough to make it through the grind of a whole season. That's kind of what it's all about. Rule talked about that, about quarterbacks at Big Ten Media Days, is who can kind of have all that coalesce to find the best guys, find the right guys, and some of the right guys that White also listed. And this is where we kind of get to defensive line talk that wanted to break down with Terrance Knighton, also available today. Ruquan Buckley and Tony White rattled off some of the leaders in that group. And at practice on Monday, the 3 guys up first in that defensive line drill station were Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, and Blaze Gunnarsson. And those are the three guys who were, to a man, rattled off as like the three biggest leaders in that group right now. And then Buckley after that, and also Cam Lenhart. And Tony White talked about, opened up about them a little bit, talked about Buckley. He's one of those guys who, with the mobility, and who really took to the strength program this offseason to gain that mobility, get the weight down to something they want to potentially have a role this year.
Yeah, both Tony White and Terrance Knighton mentioned about how Buckley has worked on his body. Buckley mentioned something you just don't hear from players as they're kind of going through it. Talked about his hips, right? He talked about, man, coming out of high school, I had really tight hips, and I just needed to be able to bend more. And it sounds like the things that those guys told him to go work on in the offseason, he really took it to heart. Both Knighton and White also gave shout-outs to both Corey Campbell, the strength and conditioning coach, and Kristen Coggin, the head nutritionist, right? Like they said, you have to be able to work in unison with all of those different areas and have the kids buy in, and they both couldn't say enough good things about Ruquan Buckley. It sounds like from the way they were talking about him, they expect him to have a role after you heard about him kind of behind the scenes the last couple of years, but he really hasn't had a role on the field yet. It sounds like he'll be in the rotation this year based on, kind of the early returns.
Yeah, and I mean, getting production out of anybody at the defensive line, I think would be incredibly valuable based on, number one, they want to rotate hockey line substitutions like Rule has said in the past, and get 8-9 guys in there. We don't know exact number, but that's what it just sounds like. They want a heavy rotation, a lot of guys to be thrown in there, and also the inexperience on this defensive line. You have Terrance Knighton, the first year FBS defensive line coach. He was a defensive line coach at FCS Wagner before for 2 years, but this is his first time at the FBS level as D-line coach, and of the 15 scholarship guys on defensive line, 11 of them have not played any snaps at the Big Ten level. Then you have Ty Robinson, multi-year starter. Nash Hutmacher's had a big role in the past, expected to have a big role this year. Then you have Blaze Gunnarsson, who's only had 101 snaps, and that was as an edge. And then Buckley is the fourth and final of the guys in that room who have played a Big Ten snap, and he's played one snap in his career. So that's why it would be, heading into his third year, Buckley getting some production out of him would be pretty damn valuable to this.
And Gunnarsson is in the same spot, right? Like it's a similar spot. Like if guys that you feel like we've been talking about forever that we're just waiting to see.
Who's always looked the part.
Yeah, God, he looks the part. Like he's definitely a guy that if he was in the top 5 guys getting off the bus, you definitely wouldn't blame them, right? Like he would definitely do that. But he looked confident and happy up there. He talked too about nutrition and getting his body right. He did say that he laughed when asked if he had strayed from the nutrition plan in the past. Didn't want to kind of throw himself under the bus, but he did admit he was a chicken wing guy, like buffalo wings, but he said he's buying into the defense and he said he can't hold other guys to the standard if he's not himself doing that. So I thought that was kind of neat too.
Well, I don't really blame him. Who isn't a chicken wing guy?
I could go get some right after
smashed some a couple nights ago. So all right, I'm right there with you, man. The last thing, just MJ Sherman, obviously, he's been, I think it's his third or fourth time at the podium since he's come to Nebraska. He's always insightful. And he broke down a little bit more of the Jack linebackers. It's kind of similar to what we've heard before, is that one of the most versatile positions in the linebacker room. He's sort of all over the place, like filling multiple roles. He said the main difference is from the Mike and Will, like Luke and Nick, is we rush the passer a little bit more, and he named off Jamari Butler, himself, Maverick Noonan, and then Chief Borders as the 4 guys who are working at that Jack linebacker spot the most, which is a little different because midway through spring practice in March, April, he didn't mention Borders' name as one of the guys working in that Jack linebacker room. So maybe we see Borders fill that role like we thought he might when we
that's
first
what we kind of
transferred
thought.
here.
Yeah, that's what you kind of envision him being able to be a guy, but also that has a lot of versatility, right? That could play multiple spots along that defense, and I think that's kind of the fun thing, right? Is that basically all of those guys can play that Jack, or they can slide somewhere else. They can come down on the line of scrimmage and do some pass rushing from there too. Like that makes it really interesting. I think that Jack position will be something that we could talk about every video because people are really excited about that, and the players seem excited about it too.
I've said it 100 times. I would love to talk about the Jack linebacker every time. That's my favorite. Been my favorite position to talk about since that sort of came out in spring ball, that was going to be a fixture in this defense. But again, two coaches, D coordinator Tony White, D line coach Knighton, and then 4 players met with the media today. 3 players met with the media today. And we'll have more on Thursday with E.J. Barthel and some of the running backs coaches, I believe. Those were on the schedule to talk on Thursday. Still, they're grinding. As Sherman said, it's the dog days of summer, dog days of fall camp. We got Jansen in the back recording this and directing it, who's sweating.
Yeah,
we're sweating a little bit, too.
There's
There's no air conditioning around here, but we'll grind through it ourselves. We have the tough job, right? Like breaking down the practices. Like players have it easy. They get fed meals and
they're in selling.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
right. Exactly. No, we'll be keeping our eyes on the Huskers as they continue to grind through fall camp and put in the actual work while we talk about it. So for Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter, and we'll catch you guys again next time.